Hello everybody, and welcome to Nerdist After. This is the show where we get the lowdown on the latest episode of Marvel's Cloak and Dagger on Freeform. And if you're keeping score, that means we're talking about episode 5 tonight. I'm Hector Navarro.
And I'm Eliza Pearl. On the show tonight, executive producer and showrunner Joe Pokaski is back to tell us how wrong or right we are about all our weird theories. And we will also be joined by actor Miles Mussenden, who plays Tyrone's father, Otis Johnson.
Yes, and it goes without saying, but spoiler alert. So make sure that you're caught up on the series. If for whatever reason you're not, you have no excuse because you can head over right now to Hulu or the Freeform app to get your binge on and then come back.
And make sure to stick with us to the end because, of course, we will have an exclusive, as in you can only get it here, sneak peek of episode 6. So get your snacks and your beverages ready. This is Nerdist After.
Before we start dissecting everything, here's what happened in episode 5. Tandy skipped a conspiracy board and went straight for a conspiracy floor. Look at that, using the entire floor. Tyrone accidentally teleports again and meets up with his brother's friend, Dwayne. Tandy infiltrates a Roxxon gala to try to find the man in charge, Scarborough. She then literally pushes Tyrone to learn to control his powers. And meanwhile, Detective O'Reilly intentionally gets caught doing drugs by Connors. Seems to be all part of her plan. And Tyrone intentionally misses the game-winning shot of the basketball state finals after he sees the fear of his opponents.
So much. Oh, okay.
A lot happening, a lot of intentions.
A lot of intention, Elise. A
Yes.
lot of intentions. Gracing us with her presence once again is Nerdist editor-in-chief Rachel.
Rachel, hi.
Hello. Hello.
Welcome back. Always
Thanks.
lovely to see you.
Thanks.
Lovely
Yes.
dress.
Nice to be here. Thanks.
You look
Yes.
like a beautiful cupcake.
Thank you so much.
Or ice cream cone.
Or ice cream.
Either one is what I was going for.
Okay, guys, what did you think of the very spicy tone of this episode, Rachel? Detective O'Reilly
It's
and
a
Fuchs?
spicy episode.
It's a spicy
You
candy.
need some ice cream to
Yeah.
calm things down.
Yes,
cool us off.
It was very spicy.
Oh my gosh.
There's a lot going on in this episode, and I honestly, anytime there's a conspiracy board or now floor,
Yeah.
definitely into the floor,
Yeah.
or any kind of undercover work, so go like spy stuff, going to a gala. I loved that whole bit of just her kind of making her way and
Speaking of
figuring out
undercover
what's going
stuff,
on.
Tandy signs up for like an Atmosphere Girls service. That was pretty spicy, right? And all of that implies. And then Tyrone and Evita, at the end of it, all of that happening. And then even to add more spice on top of that, when we see the Roxxon executives like Hope's sequence, there's a lot of spiciness happening in those offices.
There's a lot, there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to kink shame. Everyone's got their hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
And
It was very spicy.
when I was watching, I was like, was not necessarily expecting that from the show. But we've seen a lot of great adult topics and themes, and it has gone into darker places. So it makes sense that it would go there as well. And
But guys, what was running through everyone's minds when Tandy popped up by Tyrone's locker right at the beginning? This is worlds colliding. What were you? That threw me. I mean, I know we saw the exclusive sneak peek last week, but this was real fun to see this. What did you guys think?
high school is already a stressful place.
I mean,
to have someone that you're having this crazy dynamic with, who you have superpowers with, that you can't talk to anyone else about, just pop up by your locker must be kind of just throw you. And so I really liked seeing sweet Tyrone so uncomfortable.
I know, right?
Such a sweet
Fun. This show really puts him through the ringer.
I know. Every time something happens, I'm like, oh, poor Tyrone.
Yeah.
He's a sweet kid.
Now, were either of you shocked by the scene of Detective O'Reilly snorting some, a white substance in the evidence room with the door unlocked?
What if someone else had walked in?
Right, thank you, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so is this part of her plan to get closer to Connors? What do you think about this, Hector?
Honestly, I figured that it was going to happen. I didn't see it. I totally saw it coming. I knew that. No, this was insane.
You got me.
I jumped out of my seat. I was like, okay, I'm just not used to seeing this type of stuff, even though the show up to this point has tackled a lot of very real themes. I'm not used to seeing this type of stuff in superhero shows, essentially, in comic book shows. So I was shocked to say the least. I grabbed my chest like, what? And then when Connors walked in, I'm like, okay, this is all, it's part of the plan. But that's a great question. What if somebody else had walked in?
But I also feel like if you're going to take down a corrupt cop, you kind of have to, that's the story of many a great classic undercover movie. You get kind of lost in there and trying to kind of catch him in the act.
Here's what I love about this show. Here's what I love about Cloak and Dagger. For two characters that are so thematically revolving around the colors of black and white, and there's so much imagery of that, there's so many shades of gray. Every character is just shades of gray across the whole table, so yeah.
Which is great because a lot of times you feel like, and less so in recent years, but there's sort of the good guys and the bad guys, especially in the superhero genre. So to be able to look at everyone as people, and everyone is flawed and has shades of gray, is exciting, I think.
Okay, guys, that's it for our initial impressions. Before we bring out the executive producer of the show, Joe Pakaski, let's take another look at the scene from the Roxxon ball where Tyrone theorizes how he and Tandy's powers are connected.
What are you doing at a Roxxon party?
Doing some digging. Trying to find the mystery man at the center of everything.
When you say dig, do you mean root around in people's heads?
Why do you care?
I'm here because of you. You did this to me.
Did what?
You've been experimenting, right, with your hopey touchy thing?
Why? Why does that matter?
It matters because you checked too many books out of the library and I'm paying the fine. You and I are connected, and because you're using your shit, mine has been going haywire all night, and it's your fault.
I didn't do anything to you.
Please welcome Marvel's Cloak and Dagger showrunner and executive producer, Joe Pakaski.
Joe, welcome back.
Joe!
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me again.
Yeah.
So first,
Okay.
did Tyrone intentionally miss that last shot of the game?
Yes.
We knew it.
It's so funny because there was a big conversation like how much do we have to say it? We gave Gloria a line where she says that your jump shot's money in the bank, and we shot so many different versions of him adjusting his hand on the ball. And Aubrey Joseph, like obviously a talented actor, but like the look on his face,
I know,
where he kind of knows before it lands what he's supposed to do, and kind of the complexity there is like that's exactly why you love that guy.
And it's not an easy thing to do, is to make it seem as if you're trying but still miss.
Exactly.
Because it could have been an air ball. It could have, he could have just held onto it, and people would have been like, you threw the game. But the fact that he had to,
that shows just how talented he is. Like,
and our director Rairu So Young, shot the crap out of it. Nicole Levy, who co-wrote the episode with me, is kind of our secret weapon. She's a huge Marvel fan. She used to be a police dispatcher. She's a basketball fan. I'm like convinced she was like genetically engineered in the lab to work on this show. It's really fantastic. And she just like what she adds to, even the O'Reilly thing you guys were talking about earlier came from a Nicole anecdote. Not a personal one, but one she took from someone else.
wow.
Oh, interesting.
That's great.
That's fun. Okay, another thing I'd like to clarify. Why didn't Tandy kill Scarborough?
I think she realized as big as her task force tree on the floor of the church was that he still looks like he's a cog in the wheel, and I think she wants to learn a little more. I mean, it's I love the way they shot that the sequence of him pulling money out of the ground and pulling it out of the crab trays and then pulling it out of the dead bodies. I think she needs a little more information, and this hat she finds kind of is the beginning of a different trail as to figure out how to get to Scarborough, and we haven't obviously seen the last of him.
Yeah, corporate America, super evil. All right, Joe.
All right.
Tyrone hypothesizes that Tandy's use of her powers is affecting his. I love the scene. I love this moment. Can you explain what's happening here? Tyrone has the power of seeing people's fears when they come into contact with him. In the game, it even seems like the players that he's touching are affected by this a little bit. And it's a slightly different take from the comic book version of Cloak. So kind of walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think we call this unofficially conservation of awesomeness. I think it's when Tandy kind of acts up and uses her powers a little, there's an equal and opposite reaction on the Tyrone side. And it's something we're setting up for the series. So we liked the idea that if one of them makes bad choices, the other one pays. I feel like it kind of tightens up their relationship a little bit. And it's just kind of fun to see Tyrone trying to do the right thing, trying to be a kid like O'Reilly told him to, and then Tandy just like, screw this, I'm going for it. Let's use my power all the time. So it's a little bit of a lesson in kind of the yin and yang of those two.
So walk us through the Roxxon executive hopes sequence. What commentary is the show making on corporate America? What's happening here?
I mean, I think this first sequence was really about everyone's got a boss. And she goes through all these three people, and it's like they all have their hopes and dreams, and some is about women, some's about different kinds of sexuality, but it's really all about in a corporate, in a creative environment as well. You're always like thinking about getting to that boss, and that's why Scarborough's in all of these. All these guys' dreams of power involve usurping this one man, which suggests to Tandy he might be the one with the power in the first place.
Yeah.
And then with that body popping up, does that mean that there's a hope that Hess will eventually pop up dead? That means, is he alive somewhere?
Yes, I think episode 6 will kind of explore that a little more. But that rig that exploded in the background of the pilot, we're not done with that yet. So I think we're kind of easing our way back into there.
This next question comes to us from a fan on Twitter. @The Luminant Gamer asks, will we see voodoo being used more in future episodes?
Yes, I don't know if this was by design or by accident, but our big Voodoo episodes are episodes 3, episode 6, and episodes 9. So we start the next episode with Auntie doing a bit of a card reading for the city, and we start to get a sense of where Tandy and Tyrone tie in. And yeah, I think Voodoo is a good way of kind of placing our own science, magic, mysticism, our own flag in the Marvel Universe. So we'll have a lot more.
If you guys have questions or things that you noticed, make sure to send them to @Nerdist with the hashtag Cloak and Dagger right there, and we might read them on this very show.
Yes, it's no surprise that we tend to read way too much into things. So that's why we're just going to keep on doing it, because now you expect it of us.
Yeah.
So we noticed a few things from this episode that we need to run by you, Joe.
Okay.
So first off, there's a newspaper article about previously unknown sea life. How does this connect to Roxxon?
I think this, and I teased this a little earlier, I think when this rig blew up, young Mina Hess, who's kind of our little mirror image of Tandy, did some work and found that the accident actually created some sea life that she did not quite know of before. And that's how she kind of got her way into the Roxxon Corporation.
Now this is a deep Marvel Comics lore cut, and this is probably a long shot, but could some of that sea life include a gigantic whale with buff arms named Giganto? Could that possibly happen? That is an actual Marvel character, and if you don't know, read some Marvel Comics.
It can.
Yes. Giganto confirmed. That makes me very happy. All right, so Joe, take a look at the pattern of documents on the floor here in the shot. The pattern, does this signify something? Is this a hidden message or reference? Can you shed some light on this?
I mean, this is our tree, and basically what we wanted to say is like, she basically is kind of setting up, we want to make sure we set up Tandy as smart, and Tandy's the daughter of a scientist, and in the old comics, the daughter of a scientist would become a waitress, and we wanted to be very clear that we showed Tandy's potential to become a scientist herself, and she'll show this kind of from this episode on is the fact that
look at how happy that's making me. I'm so happy.
That's great.
she often is the smartest girl in the room, so she gets all these things from Greg's safe, and she makes this tree, and in loose terms, she basically one branches each of these three men who she kind of scouts out at the party, and then this big hole in the middle she eventually fills in with Scarborough. So it's kind of her little map as to how she's going to figure out what's at the source of all this.
I love that.
Yeah, and we noticed, so on that map, the tree of documents, we noticed a lot of things written on the documents.
Yeah.
So one handwritten note on one of those documents is, definitely ignored our reservations. Yikes.
Whoa.
That's not good.
In episode 7, we do talk about some conductive shielding tiles that should have been in that rig. And we slip in, so we're starting to kind of inform it a little bit as to what might have gone wrong that night when everyone died. Something. The whale with big arms.
Yes. The whale with Giganto is behind everything.
Summoned by a big horn. Read comic books, y'all.
Nice.
Yeah, he's
Is it
great.
Namor? Was he Namor's friend?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
and I think Universal owns it. Sorry.
Thanks, Joe.
Joy.
It makes me happy. It makes me happy. Yeah.
In looking back at episode 4, you said we should take a better look at the documents behind Greg. Well, guess what? We did. We noticed, our producer actually noticed these heat images right behind Greg. They look kind of symbolically similar to Tandy and Tyrone's powers being incompatible in the same space.
Boom.
Is this correct or is this correct?
You are, I think when you get to episode 7, you'll start to realize how very correct it is. Your producers are pretty darn smart.
awesome.
That's
We
for
just
you,
high-fived.
Derek.
Also,
That high five was for you.
also from episode 4, this slow-moving SUV in the background as Tandy and Greg are working at his office late at night. Look how slow that's moving. Look at that. Could that have been the assassin casing the joint, foreshadowing what was going to happen?
This, I think, most definitely is. This is Amy Mann, who is our director. Daughter of Michael Mann is a little bit of trivia. So she is no stranger to just making amazing intrigue. So there were no accidents on the way she filmed this stuff.
So these next two details were brought to our attention by YouTube commenters. One of the police officers in episode 4 was named Hannigan. So is this a reference to the artist, Ed Hannigan, who drew Cloak and Dagger in their first ever comic book appearance?
I cannot say, but Ed Hannigan's a really good artist.
Yeah.
It's just amazing, like what him and Bill Mantlo did to kind of set up these striking images that we hope to copy every once in a while. Yeah. But I cannot say for sure.
Okay.
I'll just say that it is. I'll say that it is.
In our hearts.
All the names in the dictionary, we're going to go with Hannigan. I'll say that it is. Yeah.
And then at the Wild Red Hawks headquarters, there's a banner that reads "Founded in 1982."
Come on.
Is this also a nod to the year of Cloak and Dagger's comic book debut in Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man?
1982.
Oh my gosh. It was not intentional, but when we caught it on film, we did get some B-roll, we saw it, and we were very excited about this is when Tandy and Tyrone were technically born to all of us. So
wow, that's lovely.
I love that stuff. And if you at home notice anything we might have missed, make sure to comment, and we'll run your crazy theories by Joe. And Joe, I have to ask you, what did we miss? Is there anything that we may have missed in any of the episodes up to this point, or in episode 5?
Here's the biggest thing we kind of missed, and I might have mentioned it when we shot episode 3. So we start our episode 5 with the Roxxon commercial, with this great actor Zach in his arm, and kind of just starting off that kind of BP-ish propaganda, and we end with our Mina commercial. And if you go back all the way back to episode 3, when Tyrone is sneaking Evita up the stairs, and we see Gloria, we see Mom, Adina walking by. She's on the phone saying, "No, these commercials need to focus on veterans and whatever." And what's that scientist's name again? And we're setting the seeds that these commercials are actually her idea, and she's a consultant at Roxxon.
Whoa.
So when you watch it the 5th time altogether, you'd probably figure that out on your own. But we thought we'd throw that bone to people. And it was just a great placement by the writers of episode 3.
I've already decided I am for real looking forward to rewatching the whole season as soon as episode 10's done, as soon as I finish the season. I cannot wait to go back, and I'm sure I'm going to pick up a bunch of that stuff, but that's awesome.
Well, I love shows like this too that reward those types of viewing and reward fans and reward kind of the eagle-eyed people who grew up in forums looking at little stuff all the time. So I'm super excited to watch it again.
Like stuff like that's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And that's it for the things that we noticed and the things that we missed this episode. Make sure to watch Nerdist After. Each week we have Joe on because he's going to give us the hints and guidance we and you at home need to decode everything in Marvel's Cloak and Dagger.
And now we are going to bring on Miles Mussenden, who plays Tyrone's father, Otis Johnson. But before we do, let's take a look at Otis explaining to Tyrone the meaning of a spy boy's bead suit in episode 4.
Each bead has its place, part of a larger design. And you gotta pay attention, because if you mess up and you don't notice till later, then you gotta undo hours, days, even months of work. I mean, it's no joke. It takes years to develop the mastery of beadwork, and each year you gotta remaster it again.
You gotta make a new one every year?
I mean, every year you're a new person, son. So we spend that time working on a new suit. Some give up, never finish. There's a room over there full of failure stories. They could drive a man crazy, but not the man with patience, diligence, and of grace.
Love that moment.
My
Please
goodness.
welcome Miles Mussenden.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, Miles. The relationship between your character and Tyrone seems a bit complicated given the death of his brother. How does your character balance giving Tyrone a normal life while at the same time shielding him from a dangerous world?
Wow, I think spending time, if you see, Otis is at every basketball game.
Yeah.
He's there in Tyrone's life, he's listening and being part of his life. I think being around him is an opportunity to see what's going on and to keep an eye on him and kind of keep him safe. But at the same time, like when Otis has discussions with Tyrone, he'll ask Tyrone, what does Tyrone think? How do you think you should handle this? To kind of give Tyrone an opportunity, because I don't want to shelter him to the point where he can't make decisions on his own. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I want to be able to see that he's thinking soundly. And if he doesn't know, then I'll offer some advice so that when he's off on his own, he'll be all right and he'll be a great superhero.
I really love
Dad right there. That's great.
Yeah.
Great advice.
I think my favorite dad moment so far for Otis has been when he was like, "You want a role model? Look at your mother."
Yeah.
That was so sweet and so beautiful, and it just like showed everything we needed to know about Otis in that moment. So
Wow.
That's great.
yeah. Shifting to New Orleans now.
Yeah.
So New Orleans is an enormous part of this show, obviously, especially in episode 4. Now, were you at all familiar with the Mardi Gras Indians tradition?
I knew nothing about the Mardi Gras Indians. It was completely foreign to me, so it was thrilling. So I went, and they have like little centers out there that and I went and met with some of the guys, and I got to spend some time with the Mardi Gras Indians. So that was great and deep, and wow, I always felt personally that people, young men of color could use kind of like a rites of passage, and that was something that was needed in our community. So I never had something like that in New Orleans. It's just great.
Yeah, it's pretty great. What was it like shooting that scene with the Wild Red Hawks of the 9th Ward?
Wow, it's like you move out the hood and you go back, and I guess there's some parallels in my own life. I live in. I don't live where I grew up in Brooklyn.
Sure.
But I go and I work with at-risk youth and that type of thing. So you go back and there's something warm about being around people that you grew up and that you understand and know. And these are part of my foundation and part of my growing up. So it was beautiful.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick Caribbean connection because I grew up with a lot of like Trinidadians, Jamaicans, Guyanese. My mom is Puerto Rican. So like I hear you. I feel that. Like going home, it's just like. Yeah,
when every time you go around, you get to feel the vibe.
You hear that Calypso in the street.
I know this smiles too well.
That's awesome. We're going to have to work this into the show somehow. So, Miles, the show deals with a lot of important issues, particularly issues like police brutality. Was it challenging to take on a role like this in a show like this?
I don't know if challenging is the word. I felt a heavy sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
Because of just the climate that we're living in, the news cycles and the things that we see. So, I felt like, wow, it's really important to bring an honest, view of what's going on and how it affects families. We see these things and we see people marching and we see the news cycle and we see the hashtags and then it's over. But for that family, it is not over. It's forever for them, and they have to live this. Actually, for all of us, it's kind of a post-traumatic stress thing. Yeah, that we have to live with. So I just felt a sense of responsibility to make sure that we were honest with it. So I really appreciate Joe and what they did, and that they allowed. They wrote such a beautiful piece that we can share with the world.
Now, what do you think Otis would have said to Tyrone after the game if he knew that he had missed that shot on purpose?
Yeah.
Man, what the hell wrong with you? I think once I realized why he did it, that would have been a proud moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that he, with I don't know about his powers so far. So with that power comes a sense of responsibility. And for me to know that he has that kind of responsibility to put himself second is pretty huge.
And correct me if I'm wrong too, wasn't one of the opposing team's players' fears getting beat up by his dad? And that was just a stark reminder of what a great relationship Otis and Tyrone have in this show. And again, that's something that we're not used to seeing in these types of shows, and to have superhero characters that have supportive and loving families, their moms and dads, and to see that father-son relationship. It was just such a great reminder of like, oh, this is something Tyrone does not have to worry about at all. This is not going to be in his fear at all because we know Otis and we kind of know him as a dad. So that was a great moment too.
Yeah, and I think Tyrone, you can tell even just from what we've seen of both these amazing actors, Miles and Gloria, you can see Tyrone I always say, like, you only learn from example. You can try to teach kids whatever you want, but like the best way you can do is by example. And it feels like a call either of you would have made. And I love, there's just the shot when it all goes down, and I love that both of these amazing actors have this look of like, oh my God, I'm so sad, but need to pretend I'm not, and my boy's gonna need me. And it was just so, it is amazing how you guys both split the difference on that. It was just really just without saying a word.
Yeah, it was great.
Totally by accident.
And finally, Miles, cloaks or daggers, which power would you prefer?
Wow, you know, I get asked that. And with Dagger, the thing is, you know, she can see people's hopes.
Yeah.
And she's a con woman. I mean, wow. You know, she can really take advantage of people with that. And she's really, really smart. But, you know, I love the idea of being able to have some control in those dark dimensions and be able to teleport. So I have to take my son's power out. Chip off the old block.
And now for you lucky kids, if you're watching us, you are going to be rewarded because we have an exclusive sneak peek at the next episode of Marvel's Cloak and Dagger that you cannot get anywhere else except here at Nerdist After. Let's take a look.
Are you looking for something?
B. Arthur.
The Golden Girl?
The American Bumblebee. There used to be one every 10 feet. There. 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 Every Marsh Orchid, there was B. Arthur. Then one day they were just gone.
Sounds like colony collapse disorder.
What's that?
The phenomenon where bees in a colony suddenly disappear and leave behind only a queen.
Like magic. Oh, magic. Just science we don't understand.
There we go.
Okay, so Tandy seems to be working with Mina. Is Tandy working for or with Roxxon now? Are they just hanging out in the swamp, hiking through?
We'll see. I like some of those lines. That was
E.
great.
Arthur. So Tandy is an entomologist?
Tandy's a con woman, as Miles just said. So Tandy's whoever you want her to be.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
The no magic, just science we don't understand. You actually described that to us before.
Yeah.
That's the Marvel Universe rule. There's
Right.
no such thing as magic, it's all science. Ask Thor.
Yes.
Somehow.
Exactly. Yep.
But it's great, and we get to do a nice callback to it in our finale, and I think there is no magic, and I think New Orleans is a magic city, which maybe is just built on something very scientifically cool.
Ooh. That's going to send us down another rabbit hole.
Sorry.
We are out of time. That's it for this edition of Nerdist After. We know you've got questions, comments, and theories, especially after all of that. So tweet them to us at Nerdist with the hashtag Cloak and Dagger, and we just might read them here next week. And follow the show on Twitter at Cloak and Dagger, at Freeform TV, and at Marvel.
You can catch new episodes of Marvel's Cloak and Dagger on Freeform Thursdays at 8 p.m. or on Hulu and the Freeform app.
Thank you to Rachel Hine, Joe Pakaski, and Miles Mussenden for joining us. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
Great. I'm Hector Navarro.
And I'm Eliza Pearl. You can find us on Nerdist.com and Nerdist YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as Freeform's and Marvel's digital platform.
We'll see you after the next week's episode of Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. Bye.
Bye.